Welcome back to the Lions Kool-Aid Corner. It's been a while, but guys, we're back on a way cooler set out here at the draft. How are we feeling after last night?
I'd say it's a little cooler than the couch, probably, right?
Yeah. I feel way more famous sitting out here on the set with lights and stuff, people walking by.
Yeah, people keep shouting Ben Bell as they walk by, so we can barely get a word in. But I want to start with the first half of the first round. So last night, we go into the draft. We know that the Lions could draft a number of positions, but we think it's probably going to be edge rusher or cornerback. So we're thinking defense. And you just see offensive player after offensive player going off the board, the first 14 picks. What are you thinking as all these teams just pick offensive players?
Honestly, I was like, man, maybe the NFL strategy is shifting and we don't care about defense anymore, which kind of makes sense because the way they've changed the rules in the NFL really benefits the offense in many ways. So maybe teams are just loading up on offense. We saw Brad Holmes do it last year, actually, the last 2 years in drafts. So it wasn't too surprising, but I was like, man, how many picks are we going to go without a defensive player?
It reminded me of when Sewell fell to us, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Terrion just falling, and I never thought in a million years we would get him. Drafting at 29, you kind of temper your expectations. Like, we're going to get a solid player. I don't know if we're going to get like a superstar. I think the Lions got a superstar last night.
Yeah, he might have. I mean, I'm sitting there, and I'm rooting for offensive players to go, right? Take all the QBs, take all the wide receivers, because we know what the Lions need. And I had my eye on, the two cornerbacks and a couple of edge rushers, and it's like, oh, okay, they're all still there. They're all still there. And then 5 defensive linemen go in 7 picks, and you're like, okay, we got to zone in on these cornerbacks. When you heard about the trade, they gave up a third rounder to move up 5 spots. Why do you think they gave that up to move up 5 spots, and did you like the trade?
I didn't mind it because I think in their minds they're set all across the board with starters, and I think they just had that one gap or that one hole to fill. After Cameron Sutton was released, you needed a starting cornerback, and they got that. And I think now sitting in the second round, we're kind of back to where we were when we had Cameron Sutton. We don't have any big needs, so I think they can just sit back and either trade back or just take somebody else that falls down to them.
Yeah,
it was awesome from a strategic standpoint, but man, it was just awesome to have the city witness that moment when they saw the little thing that said Lions trade up, and you literally called the exact thing yesterday on the Daily Plus Live. I mean, it was such an awesome moment just to witness, just happening in the city. Like, from that perspective, Brad Holmes nailed it for sure.
The vibes were super high because everybody got to cheer that they traded, and then everybody got the guy they wanted, right? Brad Holmes has made great picks, but it hasn't always been the typical guy that you think that they're going to get. So this was an instance where he took the guy, and everybody was just super stoked. So Terrion Arnold, if you don't know, he was a 5-star safety prospect coming out of high school. He played in the SEC. It doesn't get better than that, obviously, in preparation for the NFL. He was a freshman All-American, and then he was a first-team All-American last year. And he had 12 passes defended and 5 interceptions. So do you think that Terrion Arnold was the best player available at his position?
Yes.
It was either him or Quinyon Mitchell, right? So,
right.
Yeah, and for sure. I mean, it's like best case scenario. I mean, you couldn't have drawn it up any better.
And the Eagles capitalized too because Quinyon Mitchell fell to them just as well.
Either of those guys would have been a home run.
Yeah, and Brad Holmes did say that they had that Terrion was the guy who was number 1 on their board for cornerback. And then he takes the stage and he starts talking about, hey, this is home, man, and I'm home. And you're like, yeah, I can see why Dan Campbell loved this guy, right?
When he took the mic from the reporter and just turned around and addressed the crowd, I was like, this is our guy.
Yeah.
I went from really, really liking the pick to just loving the pick as much as I possibly could.
Yeah, you immediately saw why they wanted him. And, man, I was like, let's go. Let's start the season right now. Let's just go.
I was just like, how did this guy fall to where we could trade up and get him? How did everyone pass on him? How did he make it out of the top 15?
It seemed like a pipe dream going in, right? Like, you're sitting there at 29. Like, you're going to have to give up a lot to move into, like, the teens or something where pretty much everybody thought he was going to be drafted. So to actually get him when the draft is in Detroit, that just felt so awesome. Yeah. I'm sure you guys have watched some film or read up on his game a little bit. What stands out to you?
The physicality, and he's not afraid to run block or to defend the run, and he's a good tackler, and he makes tackles one-on-one in open field. So I think that's going to be huge because he can play man, And Aaron Glenn, that fits his scheme perfectly.
It's the Bama connection, man. Like, every Bama pick has worked so far. Just keep it going. Whatever Nick Saban's doing. Well, I guess not anymore, but whatever Nick Saban was doing down there, Brad Holmes really loves.
Yeah.
And that's what stands out to me. Those Bama guys come in. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're really well coached. They're really well-rounded guys. And it's worked out so far, so why not? Why change it?
It's going to be awesome to see him and Brian Branch pair up
back
and play together.
Yep.
Yeah.
But even when the Lions were struggling overall on defense last season, they were doing a good job against the run, right? So you add a cornerback who can play in man and who can get up and get in the pile, and he also isn't going to hurt you in the running game. So it's like building on a strength and addressing a weakness.
Yeah, love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and like you said, Ben, he played with Brian Branch, right? They played in 2022. Brian Branch was playing his last year in Alabama, and that was Terrion's all-freshman season. And last night, I don't know if you caught any of the Nick Saban comments, because he was analyzing the draft as well. And when he talked about Terrion, there was a little more, I don't know, it felt like he had a little more confidence that Terrion was going to be like a foundational player for the Lions.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who coached him, So, do you give any credibility to that?
100%, yeah, for sure, yeah. And anything Nick Saban says about his players, he's not the kind of guy that's just going to go compliment everybody on his team. He's a tough guy. He's not really, he's not like hugging everybody. So when he decides, it's valuable. Is my point. Like when he decides, I'm going to say this really, really nice thing about this player. Like it means something.
Yeah, it holds some weight because, like you said, he's not just like a roses kind of guy.
Yeah, exactly.
On the flip side, I was able to kind of contrast it with the way he talked about Dallas Turner, who went to the Vikings. He was still complimentary of his player, but it wasn't quite the same amount of praise for a guy who was actually ranked higher as a prospect.
How can you not just light up when you're talking about Terrion Arnold? I mean, I didn't know the guy's personality, and I immediately loved the player. Because, he's got such a great personality, and you're just like, I love this guy.
Yeah, Saban said this was the most involved player in all of our defensive team meetings. He came up with the team mantra. He was a leader on the he's literally just checking off things on the Brad Holmes list, right?
I love what they said on the broadcast. They said there's guys that like football, there's guys that love football, and then there's Terrion Arnold. And I'm just like, yes.
Dan Campbell just put him number one on the draft board right after he heard that. Yeah.
It's textbook.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to look ahead to what the Lions might do tonight and tomorrow. All right, we're back with our back and joining us. You were at Ford Field for round one last night, right?
Yep, we were at Ford Field.
Tell us what it was like.
Ford Field was a season ticket holder party last night. It was good fun. Different activities going on in the building, but I'll tell you, the waiting for the pick, we had no idea what was going on, to be honest with you, because when it's not live, they just put up other things on the screen. So it was really interesting to find out when we moved up 5 spots.
Yeah. Well, we saw the reaction over at the stage when the Lions made their pick and when Terrion took the mic. What was the reaction like in Ford Field when they heard who the Lions selected?
Everybody was ecstatic. No one thought we had a chance to get him. There was a lot of other names being kicked around, but to have an opportunity to have him with us on the team is going to be great.
All right, I want to look ahead to tonight. The Lions only have one pick. They pick in the second round. They gave away their third rounder to move up yesterday to get Terrion. I think we're all on board, but it does leave the Lions a little bit shorthanded today. What do you guys see as the main for now? That's true. You never know with Brad Holmes. What do you guys see as the major needs for today?
There's 2 positions I really want them to fill. I don't know how good of a player we can get, but it might just be a depth piece. But I think edge and wide receiver are our 2 targets tonight.
Ken?
Wide receiver for sure. I'm still worried about J-Mo, man. I'm still worried about J-Mo.
No, he's going to break out this year.
I don't care what you say. I'm worried about it. And I just don't think that losing Josh Reynolds, they need to add just another piece of that room. Somebody with a little speed, maybe somebody with a little height, just something. They need something there.
You're not holding out for an Antoine Green breakout year?
I am not betting on that at all.
Bobby?
I agree. I'm looking defensive line, edge, and wide receiver, and I like someone with some height.
Yeah.
So
I'll say 2 things about the Lions and their needs. Brad Holmes is sort of developing a reputation, at least for me, and he doesn't use free agency to get stars. He uses free agency to give himself flexibility in the draft. So he went out, he signed somebody like DJ Reader. He re-signed Glasgow and signed Zietler, the veteran guard. So while those positions might not be strengths, he patched them up enough that if there isn't a great player that he likes available at his pick, he doesn't feel the need to reach. So I really think we could see him go in a lot of different directions tonight. If an edge rusher falls to them, which seems very unlikely, that's not typically a position that falls, that's going to be the priority probably. But like Ken said, wide receiver, I think that might be a little bit higher of a priority in the Lions facility than fans might think. Also interior O-line. It's not just that Glasgow and Zietler are both in their early 30s, so, a few years left at best. But, we've seen Taylor Decker deal with injuries. We've seen Frank Ragnow deal with a ton of injuries. So that really just leaves, Penny Sewell as the one guy that you can count on to play 17 games. So any guys who can play the interior, especially have a little bit of versatility, I think that they're going to be on our board.
Yeah, you can never have too many offensive linemen.
Yeah, and that's what this team built its identity around, sure. Right? Yeah, so I just wanted to rattle off a couple of names for people to keep an eye on. I mean, Marshawn Nealand is a Western Michigan guy. Yeah,
that's my number one pick for tonight. If they somehow came away with him in the second round, I'd be ecstatic.
Projected to go a little bit higher than 61 where the Lions are picking, but, you never know. Look at last night, right? Yeah. We didn't think we had a chance at Terrion Arnold. So if he falls, they love a local connection. The Lions do.
They do.
So, I think that could be potentially a pick. Chris Braswell, it's a Bama guy, right? We love Bama guys. He's an edge rusher. So, and then obviously any of the wide receivers who are down there, like, I don't know. I'm going to throw out Roman Wilson. He's a Michigan guy.
I said height.
Yeah, we need some we need some height. We need somebody
Roman
that can
Wilson,
go up for 50-50 balls.
Roman Wilson doesn't have great height, but he plays big. He had a lot of moments during Michigan's championship season where he beat guys on 50-50 balls. And more important than actually having height is being able to play like you have height. I think of like the catch in the back of the end zone at the Nebraska game. Like that's a 50-50 ball at best, and he went up and got it. So
I'd still like all those throws going to Amon-Ra. I feel like they're just way too similar for them to draft Roman Wilson. As much as I love Roman Wilson, he just seems way too similar to Amon-Ra.
I agree with Ben.
Yeah. Watching them both very closely, Amon-Ra is a lot better route runner than Roman Wilson is. Roman Wilson was kind of advertised as like a straight line speed guy coming into Michigan, and that didn't really pan out. Like that's not really what he became. He became more of just like a jump ball guy. So I don't know. It's just a name I threw out there. I think any receiver is on the board. So you brought up J-Mo. Do you think internally there's a discussion about J-Mo that affects how they view the wide receiver position?
If they're not having a discussion about J-Mo and if he can really be the number two, then I'd be really concerned. And I highly doubt that they are not having that discussion. Sorry, Ben.
Bobby, you seem like you're a J-Mo fan.
I am, but I got to tell you, I haven't given up on Peoples-Jones yet either. I mean, he had a great year in 22 with Cleveland. He didn't get a lot of touches last year. I haven't given up on that as an option either.
Also very difficult to come into a different team in the middle of an NFL season.
Absolutely.
Learn the playbook well enough. I mean, Jared Goff has really good chemistry with all of his receivers, especially Josh Reynolds. So for Donovan Peoples-Jones to just come in and people to expect him to be like a 30-catch guy in the last 5 weeks, that was never going to be realistic. He did have some big third-down catches. I mean, Jared Goff showed confidence in him.
He did some nice things in the playoffs, and then he actually filled in his return when Cleef went down. So
I'm going to stand up for J-Mo just a little bit. He was great in the playoffs. I mean, he made some really big plays, and I think J-Mo is always going to be sort of like a great game for him is going to be like 3 catches, 80 yards. It's not going to be like an Amon-Ra game.
And that's my point. That's my point. Like J-Mo's he's more of a home run guy. I don't know if he fits the number 2 receiver guy. I mean, it's just he's not going to catch 9 balls in a game. He's just not. So
he showed like in the playoffs, he showed he's more of a receiver that can catch 6-7 catches in a game. I feel like he really turned a corner in the last.
I hope so. I hope you're right. But I'm just saying, as they look at the receiver room, I think they have to consider that it may not be that.
Looking ahead to tomorrow, the Lions don't have a 4th-round pick, but they have a 5th, 2 6th, and a 7th. Rank these 3 needs in order of what you think the Lions should address: safety depth, tackle depth, and kicker.
Tackle depth.
Number 1 tackle depth.
Number 1
tackle for sure.
Yeah, tackle.
What about safety? I mean,
you got Brian Branch, Melifanu played just out of his mind last year.
Kirby.
And Kirby. And Kirby.
That's
you got those
really
three.
it. I mean,
and that's why I love
guys goes down.
That's why I love the Terrion Arnold draft pick so much, because you keep Branch out of having to play corner, and he can rotate between slot and safety, and I think that's where his strengths are.
Yeah, Brian Branch does help a lot in that regard because you can kind of pop him in anywhere you need him. But I mean, I worry because the Lions have not had a good injury luck, and if somebody like Branch goes down, it's really thin back there.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to take our last break, and we'll be right back. All right, let's talk about. There's two teams made a big splash. I want to start with the Bears. They get Caleb Williams, as expected, at the #1 pick, but then Rome Odunze falls to them at 9. So now they've added this to Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and they've got like this high-powered offense. Bobby, you were just talking about that trio of receivers. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be dangerous, and that's why it was so important for Detroit last night to load up in that secondary, because they're not going to be a joke. And granted, you got a rookie quarterback in the mix there, but if he comes alive, they're going to be deadly.
I think it's just like it's a continuation of free agency. You know, like we watched the NFC North load up in free agency, right? I mean, the Keenan Allen move, like all that stuff leading into the draft, they're loading up again. I love what the Lions did in free agency, but man, these teams are coming for the Lions.
Yeah.
And those two picks were not linemen on either side. So, go ahead and load up your skill position players, because as Detroit has shown, you build and you win in the trenches.
Yeah, Caleb Williams is used to running for his life at USC, and I think he's going to be doing it again, right? Because all we saw was Justin Fields never really had a chance because he never had a good O-line. And, I mean, they've got a heck of a receiver trio and a really talented quarterback, but if you can't protect him, I don't know. How much good is it going to be?
They're going to have some really pretty losses this year.
Yeah.
But isn't it nice, though, that they're all coming after us now?
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Take
Great feeling. Great feeling.
Yeah. All the Packers fans are in the city of the NFC North champs.
That's right. That's right.
All right. The Vikings, Ken makes fun of me. He says I'm like a closet Vikings fan, but it's just because I speak the truth. They had a great day. I think they had a great day. They got J.J. McCarthy, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever grace the draft.
Okay, all right.
And, geez, 4 passes a game, dude.
and then maybe the best defensive player available.
Yeah, I can't argue. It was a good draft for them. I mean,
It was.
He'll probably throw like 1 to 2 picks a game, but it'll be all right. It'll be fine.
I don't want to root against J.J. McCarthy. So
I don't either.
I wish him the best.
It's hard to root against him, honestly. Just a nice dude.
He just didn't have to air it out a lot this last season. I mean, he's going to have to throw it 30,
he's an
40
unproven
times.
prospect
He
for
is,
sure, but he's
absolutely.
a very efficient passer. I think he's going to lose a lot of games 51-48 next year.
Is Alexander Madison going to be rushing for like 30 times a game?
I hope so. That would be good for them. A note on the Vikings, though, no picks today. No second rounders, no third rounders. So unless they make a move, they'll be waiting until tomorrow night.
I can't wait for them to draft Blake Corum in the 5th round.
He's not going to be there in the 5th round.
No.
All right, the other team in the NFC North, they were kind of the dunce of the ball, I guess, this weekend. Jordan Morgan, who is projected to be like a mid-second rounder. It was really funny when the ESPN showed like the cheese head. He was like, and then all the Lions fans were like jeering at him because he didn't know who
I
this
loved
guy
it
was.
because I was so underwhelmed with their pick, and I was like, yes, don't do anything good. Just take a boring I love when somebody takes a tackle and they're going to like convert him to guard, and you took that guy in the 1st round. It's like, go ahead and convert him because he's not his strength.
They do have 2 seconds and 2/3, so I expect the Packers to be really active today. All right, I want to finish on the city of Detroit. I mean, I was talking with Christy. It's like the city of Detroit really got no attention for like 30 years because we were not very good at football. And then it started with Hard Knocks a couple years ago. Everybody kind of fell in love with Dan Campbell, and, the coaches were in the huddles and stuff. And then we win a playoff game, and the atmosphere is super electric, and now we're dominating the draft and, like, setting records for attendance. So, like, just talk about what this experience in these last couple of years have done for the world's perception of Detroit.
I was in the middle of that crowd last night, and it was insane. Detroit showed out. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. It was awesome. It's such an elite football town, and it's like the NFL is just now discovering it within the past few years. Yeah. And it seems like it's been here this whole time, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Put us on the map.
Yep. All right. Well, that's all for us.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
No, don't do this.
It's not the end of the show. It's actually a happy birthday to Derek. So we're going to sing happy birthday to Derek. Let's start.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Derek. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the draft, everybody. Go Lions.